I think you're dead on it. I mean, that's a part of that story there in Acts 12, the end there where God kills Herod. And then we've got Ananias and Sapphira. They both dropped dead.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are glossed over or ignored because they're difficult to answer. They're difficult questions. Um, and so, so like years ago, man, when I was a teenager, first going to church and stuff, and our pastor used to say, "Listen, if you don't believe what I say, you go home and read the Bible for yourself." Right? Well, guess what? Some of us did. I went home and I read the Bible for myself, and that's what you've done. You're reading the Bible and you come across something that you don't hear preachers address.
Right. And like you said, it's because there's not really a good answer for it. But in my mind, it's kind of like, well, I mean, I think God wants the best well-being for the masses, for the majority. He wants as many people to come in as possible, and if getting rid of one to help the masses not be led by him and hear all the other crap of not believing in God, then that's what needed to be done at that time to help the majority or the masses. But then you go back to one of the most famous verses in the Bible that God leaves the 99 to save the one. Well, he killed the one to save the 99, in this
Yeah,
aspect. So
I know.
it's contradictory. I understand, because I'm more of a mature believer. But someone who is new at believing, they're literally going to look like, I don't understand why you want me to follow God, why you want me to do all of these things to a murderer. I mean, essentially, that's what they could say, right?
Well, yes, but then you have to ask yourself: Are they asking the right question?
Right. Well, and they're not, but they're not a believer. If you're talking about that,
Right.
so how do they know what questions to ask? They're just asking superficial, surface level questions because they read that. But hopefully, we're not directing them to Romans 12, or sorry, Acts 12.
Acts 12.
When they're when they're a new
Yeah,
believer.
that new believers. We take them straight to the Gospel of John and examine and watch the life of
You
Christ.
don't need to come to Romans. Like that.
Yeah, Romans not good for the first time young believers.
Yeah.
But the questions are asked, and sometimes, and this is what I've learned in trying to come up with explanations for these things. I think sometimes I'm asking the wrong question. I think sometimes people who don't know God, they're asking the wrong question. And so, I'm not able to answer all of the questions that I ask, but I know how to study. My wife just got home. I know how to ask questions. I know how to look up a verse and listen to what a trusted pastor says.
Sure.
I know how to listen to like our pastor, our new pastor at Grace Fellowship. We're from a Baptist background. He's Church of God, and so I ask him questions, and he is. I I think about is a person reasonable, or are they the kind of person who says, well, we don't ask those kind of questions around here, right? And our new pastor is not like that. He answers with reasonable, insightful explanations. And so I know how, when I don't know what I'm trying to say, David, is when I don't know the answer, I know how to not find someone who's in my little bubble, my little echo chamber, who's going to think like me and tell me what I want to hear. And what's that called? Bias, something bias. Just tell me what I want to hear. I'm able to ask somebody who, like my new pastor, who has comes from a different denomination, but he gives me reasonable answers, and what he says is coherent, right? And so when we have questions like about at the end of Acts 12 and God killing who was it? Herod and Ananias and Sapphira, and in the Old Testament where God said to kill, take that city and kill all of them. We get. I do know how to find answers that are coherent and and reasonable. And listen, part of that, like the killing in the Old Testament, part of that, the reason God had them do that is to so that they wouldn't be influenced by other gods.
Right. Because in that, exactly what you just said in, it says somewhere right there in 21, the people looked at Herod like a god, not just a man.
Yeah.
And so obviously that's one of the 10 commandments. Thou shalt not have no other God before me, or whatever. So.
Yeah. You know, and one of the commandments is thou shalt not kill.
Isn't that great?
And so then you ask, what's the difference between killing and murder? And then you get into the whole conversation, is there a justification for killing? But so murder is just outright, I'm going to murder somebody because I hate them, and killing is because a justified killing, like in war. And then a lot of people are just not willing to ask the difficult questions. They're going to stop at something that satisfies them intellectually, emotionally, and morally. They stop asking questions. So
I was going to say, can you hear me? So, have another God before me, but you should not kill. But God killed, so have another God.
I know you just asked a question, and I know, but it's breaking up. So
Sorry, yeah, I was trying to talk. Can you hear that better?
yeah,
So it's should not have another God before. Thou shalt not have another God before me.
yeah,
Thou shalt not kill.
yeah,
So God killed someone so they wouldn't have another God before him.
yeah.
That's so hard for a new believer to wrap their head around.
That's hard for an old believer to wrap their head around.
Yeah.
And so I think then to answer that even more difficult question is where, and this is not to justify anything. There are questions that you just don't know the answer to. I just don't know.
So are those questions, you're not going to know the answers, I don't think, but are those questions that we can ask God when we get to heaven? Like, I don't understand. Like, I steadfast and I believed in you, but I want an answer. Will he answer those?
I want to say yes, but then I kind of want to say at that point it's not going to be an issue anymore.
Yeah.
And the answer to why isn't it going to be an issue anymore is because we'll see his full glory as he is, and of course he told Moses, when Moses said, I want to see your glory, God said, I can't show you my full glory because Because if I did, you would die. Um,
Yeah.
to date, the only ones that are in the presence of God and not dying are angels. And we're not angels, so we got to get a new body, which is what the Bible teaches, that we'll have a new body when we get to heaven.
Yeah.
But when we get there, I don't think that it's going to be an issue anymore.
Yeah.
And
I don't think our brains will well, if we have brains, whatever.
we're going to just be so, I think,
About it.
huh?
We won't process that. We won't even think about it, probably.
I think we'll be so every word I can come up with to describe just falls short. Like we'll be so enamored enamored with God. We'll be in awe. We so flippantly use the phrase awe, awestruck at the glory of God in his full radiance. I think all those things are gonna not be an issue anymore, because we're going to be overwhelmed, with his love and his glory. Somehow, I think, in his presence, all of his justice, we're going to be able to see it and understand it, and his holiness, we'll be able to see it and to a degree comprehend, his holiness and his majesty. And I mean, like now we look at the mountains, or this morning I was looking at the sunrise when I was out, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, look at that. Right? And that's just a little boop, just a little glimpse.
Yeah.
The heavens declare the glory of God. I mean, so to be in his presence, I think is going to do away with a lot of other questions and concerns. And so, questions and concerns. And so, I think for the person who demands an answer of God, I mean, I understand brokenness and deep hurt and wanting an answer for why am I going through this and why has this happened. All right, so that's reasonable.
Sure. For the human. Sure.
Yeah. But, like some people in their arrogance, are demanding an answer from God. You should fall on your face before God, not be demanding an answer of him. So that person, to me, has not seen the love of God, hasn't maybe tried to, or at least not able to enough comprehend the love of God and the death of Christ on the cross. Because you see that, and it's going to start making you ask questions like, he must really love me, because I know I sin. I mean, I don't really like to admit it, but I know I sin. So there's Jesus hanging on the cross and for me in my place. And so that should be at least the beginning of the humbling process, that you would begin to humble yourself before God rather than arrogantly demand an answer of him. Lord, help us.